Well, Anna, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
you bet. So, to begin our journey, probably something that affected your work and affected all of us 5 years ago, we were in the middle of this pandemic trying to figure things out. How much of living through that time period affected the way that you do things today?
I mean, 80% up to 100%, like a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
my life completely changed. There was such pivot and completely different. I do some of the same work. I mean, my work has always been around storytelling in different forms. So there's still that, but very different. When it hit, I was in luxury marketing, a lot of hotel accounts I was working on and luxury goods. So my job evaporated overnight. And then it was time to pivot. Before that, I don't know, it feels like so long ago now,
I
right?
know. It's weird.
Yeah. But I was like staring at the wall. It's like, what am I going to do? What is this?
Uh-huh.
New York City was very dark. It was very, very heavy energy. And then it was also beautiful because people that decided to stay and support the city were very united, even if we were just here on our balconies, how it was. We would go outside and celebrate the essential workers. But what essentially did, my background is in theater and performance. I was a playwright and an actress first, and then I started to write my own material. That led me to a different form of storytelling marketing once I was a little tired of the artist struggle, if you will.
Yeah.
And so here I'm in the marketing. And so what I did in the pandemic, I was like, how could I help artists though? Because I have this marketing skill now. I've been doing it for a few years. How can I help people that are home and they want to figure out to do some kind of a digital marketing? So I partner up with a friend of mine and we started a podcast. It's called Artist Inclusive, where we spoke to artists and just to kind of shine light on them. And then we also had a community where we were teaching them personal branding, and that lasted for a couple of years, and that was great. But once we were able to be in person in real life, people were kind of over some of the virtual spaces.
Yeah.
So we sort of had just kind of you know closed that unofficially. We just sort of stopped doing that. But it was great for a couple of years. And then I was like, okay, I'm still kind of pivoting here. But what I had done in the pandemic, I had created a format of storytelling for artists, how they could tell their own story, both actively, so they could sort of proactively live their life internally, which would reflect externally, and also in a sort of a marketing space. So I took that format and I started to work with different clients, all kinds of entrepreneurs, helping them how to tell their story internally and live that story, understand what they wanted and create that and proactively write your story of your life that you're living today. And then I was also able to use that format, change it for businesses, executives, and teams to help them to tell stories in their workspace.
Yeah.
So turn sort of boring statistics into a storytelling form because our brain connects with a flow of storytelling and not just endless information.
So when you look on paper, there's a lot of titles, there's a lot of things that go into this. You're like a
Mhm.
Renaissance woman. But if we were to get to the essence of who you are and what you do on a daily basis, kids always get to the marrow of the matter. If I put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day and one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I would say that I'm a coach and I'm also a storyteller.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What was your dream?
I was making little books. I was staple like my 4-year-old nephew is doing right now. He loves to come over and make books, and that's what I did as a kid. I was always making books, stapling them together and putting together some kind of a story. I was also a huge dreamer.
Yeah.
I grew up in Iceland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Iceland, and it was very sort of a spare in those times when I was young, if you will. Things have changed there. It's more global now. It's a tourist destination and so on. But it was very spare, and I was just a huge dreamer. I had this sort of a movie-like world in my head and that I wanted to live in America. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sort of doing that right now. I mean, it's just different,
Yeah.
but I'm living in in New York and I'm creating my own life actively.
So take me back to your childhood. What were the foundational elements of being a dreamer, of
Mhm.
eventually getting to America and seeing all these dreams come true? What were the foundational elements that were planted, the seeds that evolved into you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would see movies and the people had their cars. They had a car as a teenager. They had a phone in their room and TV, and they had all these different outfits. I mean, I would get a new outfit like for Christmas and maybe for June 17th or, National Day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's supposed to last. So there wasn't a lot of sparkling things, if you will. It was very Scandinavian, but almost like kind of Russian, if you will, too. It
Yeah.
was very spare. And I just thought, and there was some kind of mannerism also. We were very sort of you have to behave. I grew up with that. You have to behave, polite, work hard. These are great values. Um, but you wouldn't be able to have sort of a freedom. I don't know. It's almost like how you grew up.
Yeah.
You were just formed in a way.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has great values in it. But I would look at movies and see how people are so free and they could just do their own thing. They could go into the refrigerator of their own home and just take food. We had to ask. We couldn't just take a container of some schmear and take it into our room. We had to like, can I have
Yeah.
a toast and schmear?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, there was freedom and it was just like it was a little more sparkly.
So what
Yeah.
eventually brought you to America? What was the moment? How did that happen?
Yeah. So and then I was in the arts. I was also very physical. I was aerobic instructor. I didn't really thrive in the schools over there. I didn't love it, but so I had this dream of going to a university or like and major in drama in acting. That's what I wanted. And so it was a little bit later, I'm 24 when I finally make it to the West Coast, Seattle, Washington. I went to University of Washington and I graduated there, BA in drama. So it took me that time. And at this time, I'm already a mom, and I was very young when I became a mom, and I was married to my daughter's father at the time. And so the three of us took off and went to school. We both went to University of Washington. He's an engineer. And so it took that time, but I was always trying. I tried to be here in New York once. I became as an au pair. I was 18 and worked for this family in Long Island. And they had said, you can be in art school half day and babysit and do housework half day. And then I started to do extra things like I was really good at making a salad. Now they wanted me to stay home over dinner time to make that damn salad. So they were always taking a little bit more till I was like, you know what? I'm not taking these acting or dance classes anymore.
Yeah.
So I moved out and that didn't go so well. I was like, living on a slice of pizza, selling off my jewelry that, I'd gotten from some old boyfriend grandmother.
Yeah.
That was my life. It lasted for a few months.
Yeah.
But so I tried it. So that was my sort of everybody has that New York story where you slept on a mattress and you ate, a slice of pizza, a dollar pizza a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I did try that, but it was effective when I was able to go to school. I worked really hard. It was very expensive, even if it's a state school, University of Washington, I'm there as an international student. So I really had to work hard to make this happen. And I'm not afraid of hard work. I've never been afraid of it.
Yeah.
I can roll up my sleeves when I have to.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm pursuing acting, and that's going so-so. It's Seattle. There's only so much work. And it was a huge problem to have an accent. That didn't go so well. So I would be cast as a silent person almost, or like, a Russian killer or
Right.
a prostitute, something dangerous.
Yeah.
Because on the West Coast, they thought I was very intense.
Yeah.
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 So
Wow.
And then I moved back to Iceland. I wrote a solo show. I did that there. I took it to New York. And eventually I met my current husband, moved back to Seattle. He lived there. We knew each other before, but not romantically. And then we came here together to New York. And we've
Wow.
been here now for 14 years.
Interesting. Are you familiar with the Icelandic band Sigur Rós?
Yeah, yeah, I've seen them in a concert a couple of
Yes.
times.
So Jonesy, when he sings, that's a made-up language, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't understand a word he
I
says.
know. I think
Yeah.
I read that it was made up because I'm a big fan of the I love Bjork. I love what she does.
Mm.
And so yeah, it's interesting. Dwight from The Office, Rainn Wilson, the actor,
Yeah,
he came up with a show on Hulu because he's always been a little depressed. You know, he's a successful actor. He's got a family, he's got kids. He has every reason to be happy. He's wealthy, but he just has always been a little depressed. So he decided to go out into the world and travel to different countries to see what made people happy. And the first country he went to was Iceland. And during that time, he figured out that Iceland has the happiest people on the planet per
Hmm.
capita. And
Okay.
yeah, so anyways, I just have always been enamored with that. And they kind of describe that the weather patterns are uncertain. So there's a level of flexibility that goes into the mentality and psychology. Every landscape you look at is absolutely surreal, you know.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
there's all of these factors that go into it. So anyway, I just if you have a chance, just watch the one on Iceland. I think it's the first one in that series. It's very interesting.
100%. I will. Wait, did I see it? Did he eat food? No.
Yeah, I mean, he went to Poland. He went to some other places. I think
Yeah.
Bulgaria was kind of rough. Poland was
Yeah.
rough. There was a couple other
Yeah.
places that were a little bit more inviting, but he just wanted to see how the people interacted and how they felt life. And
Yeah.
it was interesting, you know, but
Yeah. Some of the qualities we have in Iceland is people live really close to each other.
yeah,
So, and we have children pretty young, and so the grandparents are around, the cousins are around, the aunt and uncle, everybody's around. You gather for holidays and birthdays, and so that closeness, that sort of community is, scientifically increases happiness. So
yeah,
that's part of it. And we have really clean, pristine water and good
yes.
fish. Yeah.
That's the thing too. And they were showing at one point they were getting into a hot springs. It was cold out, but there was natural hot springs that they got into. So there was just, and you
Yeah.
could just sit there and look at the mountains and all of these unbelievable landscapes. And you know, being in Kansas City, we don't have any of that. We have no bodies of water. We have no mountains or anything. So it just, you
What
know,
are you doing there?
I don't
You don't you
know.
you, you seem like a guy who loves a body of water and mountains and
I
and
do.
and beauty.
I,
Yeah.
I tried to get out a few times. My dad was actually born in Brooklyn and raised in Long Island, and he joined the military to see the world and came to Kansas City and fell in love, and here we are. So, but I travel and I get out and all of that. So I'm curious, in all of these, in your evolution as a human being, in your travels geographically and otherwise, who has been that inspirational force, that hero for you in your life?
That's a great question. Why do I not know it? Um, you know, it sometimes it had to be me
Yeah,
because I'm the one who shows up. I'm
yeah,
the one, and I've learned in the last few years to start to share more of myself because I've been so like I'm going somewhere, you know what I mean? But then it also depends on what industry I'm in, because see, I was in the theater and I loved some of the sort of a like Marlene Dietrich sort of a thing. And I also kind of wanted to be a little bit like Julia Roberts, you know what I mean? And then I go into marketing, and there are other different people there, and the luxury marketing. So I was reading more on, fashion and lifestyle, and there were some leaders there, and some Vogue writers that I liked and enjoyed and sort of followed. It's just really I'm very entrepreneurial, so I seek that out. There's now one person that I'm really, I adore this person. Her name is Tara Swartz. She's a doctor. She wrote
yeah,
this book, The Source. You know of
yeah.
her?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
So she is a very smart neuroscientist, and she's also that entrepreneurial. So people like that, but there hasn't been like one person that I sort of followed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer. No, that makes total sense because sometimes we have to rely on ourselves based on our
Yeah.
past, our history, who we are, and if we have a different vision than everybody else around us, we have to be the one that protects ourselves now and that child that brought that dream about, you know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, let me ask you this. Being a coach, you have to deal with heavy stuff with people. You have to help them get to a place, but you also have to like kind of swim through the world, so to speak. How do you balance all of that out? How do you balance doing your job at the best possible level to help people, but you have a soul that you have to nurture and take care of? How do you find that balance every day?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just came back from the gym and I just thought about it. I was like, you know what? I made this happen because I had a really important meeting this morning. I was prepping for it all yesterday. And then I was going to meet with you. And I was like, I'm going to squeeze in a little gym.
Yeah,
And I did arms, I did, a little abs. And I was like, you know what? I'm proud of myself for doing that. I did take care of myself
yeah,
in that way. And so I am organized. I have I can focus for long hours, but I can also be a little bit indulgent. Sometimes it's just really beautiful weather. I work for myself. I don't have to be anywhere. I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna take the day off.
yeah,
I'm just gonna go somewhere. But I think underneath is all my rituals. I start the morning with rituals. For example, I did gratitude journal. I practice language. I practice French for the brain, and also I'm a Francophile. I love going to Paris and France. So I do the journal, I do the language, and then I do something. I practice my heart coherency. So, meaning I'm sort of evening out my nervous system and connecting with my brain. So I do this, I studied from this institution called HeartMath Institute, and they teach you how to become coherent and make better decisions, to be aligned, to connect with your brain. So that's a practice that has been a huge influence in my life. And I also share that with my clients. But it's always that put the mask on first, take care of yourself first. And I do have all these rituals and the workouts and my readings, but I also take time to enjoy life. Um, and then you just have a schedule. You have to have boundaries in your schedule. Like I only have 3 days in the week that I actually work with one-on-one clients.
So, so let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight and you ran into that version of you before you moved to America the first time, and you could
Hmm.
give that version to you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've accumulated so far, what advice would you impart on that younger version of you?
Yeah, hmm, I would definitely tell her to not worry, to lean into my intuition because it's very often solid and it serves me well. And to allow myself to have that to live creatively, to allow myself that. That came much later in life. I had all this creativity, but I was a little bit scared to share it.
Yeah,
I thought like, but I don't know if this is right. There is no right.
yeah, yeah.
So have more agency and authority for myself. That just go for it.
Speaking of going for it, you've had to risk a lot. You've had to take a lot of risks in your life. What is the biggest risk that you've taken?
I don't think of it, but I think it is my marriage because I am married to my soulmate and we met a few years before we got together. But when we started dating, I was in Iceland and he was in Seattle. And I'm a single mom at the time. I moved 7,000 miles with my daughter to be with this man. We're now 20 years later, still very happy. So that's a risk. But
Yeah,
when you're in it, you don't really think of it as a risk
yeah,
because if you're following your heart, but
yep,
that's definitely a risk.
yeah,
And I think I'm just a risk taker. I
yeah.
leave industry for another. I'm a little, yeah. I think I'm my big actions are much more fearless than some of the smaller voice that I have been dealing with, and been sort of been able just now able to sort out and when we have this
Huh?
naggy dang voice.
Yeah.
Um, but Yeah, because I somebody told me, which a lot of us know now, that you can have more regret of the choices you don't make
Yep.
versus taking them. So I took that to heart, and I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. But
That,
I had to deal with all kinds of things, of course,
yeah.
different hardships and challenges, and that rising up again has a lot of you get a lot of credit for yourself when you rise up again after things don't go so well, if you're performing and nobody shows up.
Yeah.
And, there are financial things and all these different challenges we go through. But if we're gonna, if that's gonna lead how we live our lives, then that takes away all authority and agency from ourselves, I think.
So the other side of the risk is rewards. So when you look at your life,
Yeah.
everything you've done and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
I am proudest of the relationship I have with my family. Yeah, my sister passed a couple of years ago, and her two children have babies, and so they're around here in New York. We became a family of 11 all of a sudden. We were a family of three, and then we're 11 now. And I think I just love that the relationship we have together. So I'm just proud of that.
Yeah.
And I'm also proud of some of the work, the storytelling, like I call it evoke, the framework that I've done. I'm really proud of it because I see how people do change and they evolve and they start to make better decisions for themselves. They sort of start to understand who they are. So I'm very proud of that work as well.
So,
Yeah.
Anna, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you're in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Mm. I mean, I'm probably a little nutty, but uh, loyal. I'm very loyal and creative.
So, what do you miss about Iceland and what do you like the best about New York?
Hmm. Iceland. So now, I mean, I have the best of both worlds because a few years ago we were able to buy a little condo over there. So we spent like 30% of the year there. And I'm going next week. What I'm looking forward to the most is all the baths and the swimming pools that you talk about,
Yeah,
that you were just, mentioning. We also have like public pools, nothing fancy, but you just go and you soak and you swim and you steam. Love that. Love the clean air and the water. The simpleness of it,
yeah,
to go to the fishmonger, take the fish home, cook it,
yeah,
call my mom on the phone,
yeah.
simple things.
That's it.
Yeah. And here I love the energy here. I love that you can create your own life here. There are so many possibilities. And it's high and it's low,
It's being
So
human. It's being human.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. My life is very high and low. Like I sort of love that.
We got to squeeze it all out. We're not down here long enough. We got to go for it, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just
You
got to
seem
do
like
it.
a really content, happy guy.
Yeah, I mean it's highs and lows like you say, but yeah,
Hmm.
it's just looking at life and just embracing it for what it is, and there's so much wonder that's in there. Like I had a friend that went to Iceland about 3 years ago, and he got to see the northern lights and the landscapes and all of that, and it's those things. It's like, you just get out there and see this world and feel it and understand how people work, and it's like we just, especially in America, there seems to be this polarity that's presented to us, the black and whites, but there's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of us that
Yeah.
are out here doing things and moving in the same directions, and there should be a lot more love than vitriol and hate. That's for sure.
Right. Well said. Yeah, well put. Absolutely. And there, and now I feel like the opportunities that used to be only in America, if you will, that I, thought of as a child, that you can become your own person of yourself and create your life and all that. It's now more global. Not everyone, but because of the internet, like you and I, we're hanging out.
Yeah,
You know, so there are a lot more opportunities now in these times. You just have to be online. You
yeah,
just have to have an internet,
yeah, yeah,
you
and
know.
just have a sense of adventure. you know?
Absolutely.
Just,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
make it
and
happen.
and and look at what you're really good at and
Yeah.
see what can I do with that?
Yep. That's it. And sometimes you just have to be alive long enough to figure that out.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's we can blame that on the schools. They don't allow us, they don't teach us to be individuals and think in an entrepreneurial way.
Yeah.
It's still very framed. You go to school, you sit there for 8 hours and they just sort of punch in the information into your brain, and it's just not how I think it's not very inspiring.
Yeah, I agree. I totally
Yeah.
agree. I think about it with like jazz musicians when I ask them about how they really developed their own voice. It was always on the bandstand. School was fine. It gave them kind of that methodology, that backbone. Same thing with school, but it's not until you go out. It's just like with love and finances. You don't learn any of that until you go out and fall down or feel the elation or fall in love or all of those things. You literally have to go out into the Wild West and feel it and figure it out.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know?
you're totally right. Unfortunately, we have to have some sort of a hardship or lows to understand it. And that's why I created that format too, to allow people to proactively create it and understand it, not react to life, but
Yeah.
proactively create your own life, your own story that you want to tell,
Yeah.
today and
Absolutely.
later.
Yeah, for sure. So if anyone wants to reach out, they want to hire you, they're curious, any of the
Yeah.
good business in your world, where can they go?
My full name, AnnaRosaParker.com. That's my website. I'm under my full name also on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And then I have a little Instagram account I'm trying out called EVOKE Method.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
I will put these links in the show notes. Anna, this has been wonderful. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. You're
Yes.
great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.